were getting out of line. They were acting too uppity, and it was time to cut them down to size. Periodically, you have to drop bombs on Arabs because, you know, Arabs only understand the language of force. So you have to kill a few thousand here, kill a few thousand there, to remind them who's in charge and who's boss. And that's basically what deterrence capacity means. It's one of these terms they develop in academia and military people like to use. They try to use polysyllabic words to pretend they're not imbeciles. So they use terms like deterrence capacity. But when you have a general who knows the realities, or in this case a divisional commander, he came to be much better known in later years, Ariel Sharon. He said that right before the attack on Egypt, he said that Israel had to launch a first strike because it was losing its deterrence capability. Our main weapon, the fear of us. And that's basically what deterrence capacity means. It means that you have to terrorize your adversaries into submission so they don't get out of line. And every once in a while, when they get out of line, in order to restore the deterrence capacity, restore their fear of us, you have to bomb them away, or bombs away. Well, that's how it all began. That's when the Gaza was occupied. And the same sequence of events and the same impetus was at work in December 2008. We have to backtrack just a little. In May 2000, Hezbollah, the party of God, inflicted a major defeat on Israel after an 18-year-long guerrilla war. And this defeat that they suffered was celebrated throughout the Arab world. It was for Israel a humiliating defeat, one of the world's most powerful armies having been humbled by a guerrilla army, a guerrilla force. And when this defeat was celebrated in the Arab world, Israel realized its deterrence capacity was being undermined. These Arabs were getting out of line again. And so another war with the Hezbollah was almost inevitable. In fact, it was inevitable. And Israel began planning for it right after its defeat in May 2000. In the summer of 2006, Israel found its pretext when Hezbollah captured 2 Israeli soldiers. Several others were killed in the firefight, and they demanded in exchange for those Israeli soldiers the release of Lebanese prisoners held by Israel. Well, Israel went into Lebanon. We're now closer to the present, so most of you have some consciousness or recollection of it. Israel went into Lebanon in the summer of 2006, unleashed the full fury of its air force, geared up for a ground invasion, but alas, it suffered another ignominious defeat. In fact, it was a defeat of quite significant proportions. A respected American military analyst who was very partial to Israel, he did a study of the war, and he said the Israeli Air Force, the arm of the Israeli military that had once destroyed whole air forces in a few days, not only proved unable to stop Hezbollah at rocket strikes, but even to do enough damage to prevent Hezbollah's rapid recovery. That was the Air Force. 1967 destroys whole air forces in a few days. But in the case of Hezbollah, barely able to inflict any significant damage on Hezbollah. On the civilians, it's a different story. I'll get to that in a moment. And the Israeli army, it fared even worse. The fabled Israeli army, once ground forces did cross into Lebanon, they failed to overtake Hezbollah strongholds, even those close to the border. It was a very significant defeat, especially if you look at the numbers. Israel had about 30,000 to 40,000 troops poised for the attack. There were about 2,000 regular Hezbollah fighters and about 4,000 irregular ones, 6,000 in all against 30,000 to 40,000. Israel fired or delivered about 162,000 weapons during the war. The war was 34 days. Hezbollah fired 5,000 weapons for all 34 days, which means Israel fired or delivered as many weapons on any single day of the war as Hezbollah did for the whole length of the war. And what was even more astonishing, Israel never even faced the crack Hezbollah troops, which had been stationed on the Litani River waiting for the Israeli invasion that never happened. The Israeli Defense Forces were defeated basically by village militias stationed on the border with Israel. It was a tremendous defeat for Israel, and of course, their deterrence capacity suffered significantly, especially because Secretary General of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, wouldn't stop taunting the Israelis and telling them that we don't fear you, we're not afraid of you, come if you want, you will be defeated again. There was no longer that Arab fear of Israel. As Mr. Sharon put it, Israel's strongest weapon. Well, after that 2006 war, Israel was itching for another attack at Hezbollah. From Israel's point of view, we're down, but we're not yet out. But they didn't yet have a military option against Hezbollah. In mid-2008, about a year ago now, Israel then began trying to conscript the United States for an attack on Iran, hoping that in an attack on Iran, they would both decapitate Iran and decapitate the Hezbollah, and thereby defeat their two main regional challengers. The United States didn't go along. The Israelis and their unofficial emissaries, like the sometime historian and full-time propagandist Benny Morris, were going around saying that if the United States doesn't join in a conventional attack, then Israel will launch a nuclear attack on Iran. The U.S. said no. Iran went its merry way, and the U.S. and Israel's deterrence capacity, its credibility to terrorize the Arab world, slipped another notch. And so now it was high time to find a defenseless target to annihilate, to restore their deterrence capacity. And that's where Gaza comes in, Gaza being Israel's favorite shooting gallery. Even in Gaza, the feebly armed movement Hamas had defiantly resisted Israeli dictate, and in June 2008, they even compelled Israel to agree to a ceasefire. Well, Gaza is the designated target. Gaza is the designated means to restore Israel's deterrence capacity. How are they going to do it? What was their strategy? The Israelis were very forthcoming about their strategy. They were very clear about it. There was no ambiguity. Anyone here from Lebanon? Okay. So there's an area in the south suburb of Beirut called Dakhya. Is that pronunciation okay?
That's fine.
Okay. People have been coaching me on that. I'm from Brooklyn.